Ursula Royteen.
Listen live at mynorthwest.com. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk, powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome. Welcome to The Big Show. Yeah, that was my fault. The little music started playing during your newscast there, Ursula.
I've just learned to ignore those little extraneous noises.
Well, I was trying to put together something on the fly. Because, did you recognize what the music was?
It sounded cartoonish. What was it?
Well, I had not heard the story that you had at the beginning of your newscast that Sawant and somebody else.
Lisa Herbold.
And, she's the grandma with the nose ring. Cool. Edgy. So they've proposed more than $1 million to have rolling toilets.
Yes, 5 of them.
Okay, so
but they're not just little porta potties. They're kind of not extravagant, but they have.
But they'll be driving around the streets.
Yes.
Because too many people are defecating on our streets.
Yes.
So the reason you heard music was because I decided just on the fly, because an instant image popped into my head. When I was a little kid growing up in Ballard, I'd be at my friend Christina's house playing in her backyard, and on summer days, it was just the highlight when we would hear the far-off music of the Poopsicle truck.
Yes.
We always called him Poopsicle Joe. Oh, and you'd hear it in the distance, and we'd jump on our bikes because we'd work chores earlier in the day to save a quarter so we could go get a fudgesicle or a creamsicle or a popsicle. And you presented this image of the city spending $1 million to get these rolling toilets. And I'm thinking we should have this music on the rolling toilets and call the drivers Poopsicle Joe. And the homeless people, they can hear the far-off music and say, it's the Poopsicle Man, it's the Poopsicle Man. And they can go running from blocks away and line up to use Poopsicle Joe. Are you with me, people? Look, I had 2 seconds to come up with this whole idea. It's all on the fly here.
Poopsicle Joe, I'll give you credit for that one.
Yeah. So anyway, that is what I'm going to push for every time. They just proposed this afternoon?
Recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to throw my full support behind Sawant and Herbold on the rolling trucks as long as we have whimsical music playing and we call them Poopsicle Joe. And then the people, when they hear the music, they can just go running over and then defecate inside Poopsicle Joe. So slightly different from the bucolic childhood I had growing up in Seattle, but very reflective of what's happening in today's Seattle. So that's my idea. I'll refine it better when I have more time to think about it, but that's just the way my brain works. And with that as mere prelude, let's get right to The Big Lead.
The Big Lead, Dori Monson Show exclusive.
We will talk with our transportation specialist, Chris Sullivan, at 12:30 this afternoon. But if you follow me on Twitter, and really you should, because some of the people who follow me just post some really good, interesting, funny stuff. So a guy who goes by the Twitter handle Sean Q Public, he posted on my Twitter last night. He was downtown, rush hour traffic, and he saw one of those Seattle streetcars rolling by. And he pulled out his phone and recorded video. The streetcar was completely empty. And it wasn't out of service or returning to base. It says on the front where it was going. And it was completely empty at rush hour. And what I said was, first of all, I thanked Sean for posting this. because what it does is it reinforces that transportation in our region is about one thing and one thing only, and it ain't moving people around. It is about graft and corruption. My friend Christina, who we would run off to see Poopsicle Joe, she lived on a corner in Ballard. They were two side streets, but the 67th Northwest in Ballard, which runs east-west, it's an incredibly wide side street. You rarely see a non-arterial that wide. Why is it so wide? Well, because 140 years ago, they had a streetcar line there in Ballard. That was adequate technology in the 1800s. But here we are in 2019, and we have these city leaders because, and I believe that there are an awful lot of people in power who have gotten paid a fortune under the table, graft, naked corruption to put a streetcar in Seattle. Because it does nothing for transportation. In fact, it helps destroy the transportation grid around here because they have to take out lanes for cars to put in streetcars. It is it was originally budgeted at just over $100 million. It's at $282 million and counting. So we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. Nobody's riding it. And it's costing us not just the upfront cost to build this stupid system, but also to operate it every year. It's costing us a fortune. Chris Sullivan has the numbers. He will join me right after the bottom of the hour news, and we'll get into this scam. But again, when Dow Constantine, Jenny Durkin, all of these criminals in politics, when they tell us that they must sue the voters because we voted for $30 tabs, it's so that they can continue to grease the palms and have their palms greased with boondoggles like a streetcar, a completely obsolete streetcar system. A bus can do everything a streetcar can do for about 1/10 the cost. But there's a lot of money to be made and a lot of scams to be had. And there's another very powerful entity behind these streetcars. And Chris Sullivan will tell us about that as well. Coming up afternoon. Okay, next up in the big lead.
The Big Lead, top trending.
The impeachment hearings continue today. And I got to tell you, if you want the absolute apex of this clown show, this Democrat Party media collusion that the entire nation, the ratings have just fallen off the table. Nobody's interested in watching it. It's all convoluted. It's helping Trump's ratings in the couple of new polls that are out today. It's just a disaster for the Democrats. It's also even more of a disaster to expose what an absolute clown show CNN is. Because this morning, Andrew Cuomo, Fredo, he's maybe never looked, maybe no news anchor has ever looked like as big an idiot as Chris Cuomo did this morning on CNN. Let me explain. During impeachment testimony this morning, a guy named David Holmes, he testified, and he said that he was with Gordon Sondland, the ambassador. Sondland was talking to President Trump, and this guy claims he could hear both ends of the conversation, even though Sondland did not have it on speakerphone. And he says, oh, no, I just heard Trump coming over the earpiece in the guy's phone. Here's what he testified.
Now, you said that at some point Ambassador Sondland pulled out his cell phone and called President Trump. This was an unsecure cell phone, is that right?
Yes, sir.
In the middle of a restaurant in Kyiv?
Yes.
Now, you said that you were able to hear President Trump's voice through the receiver. How were you able to hear if it was not on speakerphone?
It was several things. It was quite loud when the president came on, quite distinctive. I believe Ambassador Sondland also said yesterday he often speaks very loudly over the phone, and I certainly experienced that. When the president came on, he sort of winced and held the phone away from his ear like this. And he did that for the first couple exchanges. I don't know if he then turned the volume down, if he got used to it, if the president's moderated his volume. I don't know. But that's how I was able to hear it.
And so you were able to hear...
This is the guy's testimony, that he could hear both ends of the conversation, because it's pretty useless if he couldn't hear what the president was saying. So he said, but I could hear it coming over just the receiver earpiece in the phone, because Sondland would pull the phone away from his head. So Donald Trump disputed that in a tweet this morning. Donald Trump tweeted, "I've been watching people make phone calls my entire life. My hearing is and has been great. Never have I been watching a person making a call which was not on speakerphone and been able to hear or understand a conversation. I've even tried, but to no avail. Try it live." And so on CNN this morning, Chris Cuomo wanted to prove Donald Trump wrong. So he called his mom. He had 6 people on the desk with him to do commentary on the impeachment. And he called his mom to prove that you can hear the person on the other end, even if it's not on speakerphone.
He has really good hearing, some would say, the best hearing ever. And he's never been able to hear a phone call when it wasn't on speakerphone from anybody. So let's just play with that for a second. Mom, can you hear me?
Okay, so Chris Cuomo has pulled out his phone, has called his mom.
All right, so if I were holding the phone here, I'm with Dana Bash. You know how you're always telling me to let her talk because she's so smart and I shouldn't say so much? Can you just say hello?
Okay, so now he's holding the phone up, not on speakerphone, so Dana Bash and all the viewers on CNN can hear Mom just over the receiver earpiece.
Can you just say hello? Mom, she probably can't hear me. Mom, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so now he puts it on speakerphone so people can hear that it's his mom, even though the whole point was you're supposed to be able to hear it when not on speakerphone.
Yes, I hear you. When you talk to me, I hear you.
I'm talking to you. Say hello to Dana Bash.
Hi, Mrs. Cuomo. How are you?
Now he takes it off speakerphone, and you can't hear, and he's holding it up. You know how they wear those lavalier mics that are, kind of pinned near the top of their shirt or near their neckline? He's holding his phone up near Dana Bash's lavalier mic to prove how easy it is to hear somebody's voice over the earpiece of a phone.
Hi, Mrs. Cuomo. How are you?
All right.
So, I can't hear your mother, Chris. You're over there.
So the other people on the set are saying, we can't hear her, Chris. I mean, so what he was trying to prove is turning out to be a live television disaster for Chris Cuomo, who then goes on to just lie about it, doing more fake news.
So
I'm sitting across the table.
This is not on speakerphone.
I'm sitting across the table.
It's not on
I can't hear.
speakerphone. It's regular phone. It's 2 feet away from Dana. She can hear my mother. I'm not sure Mom can hear us. Mom, thank you very much. Thank you for not saying anything that'll get me in trouble. I'll call you back. I love you. All right. Okay,
Dana Bash never said that she could hear his mom. But Chris Cuomo, to try to save face because he is such a clown in the ultimate circus of news networks, CNN, he goes, okay, well, that's proof that Trump's tweet was lying and that this guy's testimony this morning was legitimate. I tell you what, this is turning out to be just an all-time fail. These impeachment hearings, Trump's ratings are going up, and CNN's ratings are plummeting when they try to pull nonsense like that. That was hilarious. Chris Cuomo looking like such a fool on live television. Next up in the big lead.
The big lead, Bizarro World.
I mentioned that my Christmas lights got put up a week ago last weekend, the earliest we've ever had them up. And I reached a compromise with my wife. My daughters came over to the house, and they agreed with my wife. We have the lights on the house, but I also have the front bushes lit. I have the lights strung. But they said, hey, let's save something until Thanksgiving. Don't light up everything, Dad, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I thought, okay, that'll be a little compromise. So we've got the house lit up. I'm going to wait to light up the landscaping till, what, a week? Oh, Thanksgiving's a week from today. That's kind of exciting, isn't it? But some cities have already started doing their Christmas lights. In the city of Carnation, over there in East King County, they've had a Christmas light festival for many, many years. Christmas in Carnation. And they set up the lights in their little city square there, and it's called Tolt Commons. And now they found out that somebody went through and vandalized all the lights. Same thing, they weren't going to actually light them until the civic celebration coming up. Our friends at KIRO 7 News, they went out there, reporter Dee Dee's son, and talked about how sad is this story.
It's obvious that someone is making this their mission in life to be difficult.
It seems like every time the city of Carnation tries to put up Christmas lights, they're vandalized before even being turned on.
Somebody spliced it, cut the wires, and made it inoperable. We can't even repair them.
And it's the third time this has happened in 2 years.
So the lights now all have to come down. We kind of feel it's the Grinch. I'm not sure why somebody would do this.
Now the celebration might happen in the dark. The city replaced these lights twice already, and they just can't do it again.
And while they really want to do something, they just feel it's just too much of a risk and a drain on resources.
That's a shame that people would be that selfish about it.
Grow up and turn yourself in.
How self-loathing is a person who goes around and I said Dee Dee's son, now that I hear the voice, that was terrific reporter Jessica O, who did that story there. But how much self-loathing must you have to go around and cut Christmas lights to destroy other people's celebration of the season? And now the city says they might not be able to afford to replace them. And, I tell you what, we've got a lot of soulless losers all around this region, and the number seems to be growing exponentially with each passing year. And that is your big lead for today.
The big lead on KIRO Radio.
Ursula's going to check the news, and then wait till you hear some of these numbers. Our transportation specialist, Chris Sullivan, will tell us how much you and I are paying for the empty Seattle streetcar and why Dow Constein and Jenny Durkin have to sue all of us for our yes votes on 976 when they're still doing nonsense like this. That's coming up next.